Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Poison Ducky, and we're going to have another Total War Warhammer 2 replay. I'll be playing as the Vampire Coast this time, and my opponent will be playing as the Mighty Lizardman. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into some army introductions. I'm going to go for a very wide build this game. Six units of zombie pirate deckhand mob spread out rather evenly. This map is very odd. It has like weird undulations, like 6 to be in total that just come out here. They give a lot of fire protection against my guns and woods on each flank. So it's a very interesting design for a map, at least. Never played on this in multiplayer. I like the aesthetic of being on like a hill of a giant skull. Not even a giant skull. That's like bigger than any giant that we've seen. But regardless, front line of just deckhand mobs. One of them including the Tithe of Skilled. Nothing too special. They just have a frenzy, and I believe they just don't run out of vigor. Nothing, and they're really not that much. I think they're 450 compared to like the 300, so it's not very useful. Nothing special. They are useful, but nothing too powerful out of them, out of a regiment renown. I want to have 2 units of zombie gunnery mobs, but handguns, so these are the ranged ones that have rifles, essentially. Very powerful. Essentially anti-large and anti-any sort of armored unit, but specifically very efficient against large. And what I really like about Vampire Coast guns is that so many model counts, 120 here. And if you do this, I have 4 units of zombie gunnery, normal mobs. So these are just pistols. Nothing too special about them. Only 18 missile damage, and that's with the buff of having more powder when the first few volleys always do a little bit more damage. But like, look at that model count, 120 little pistols being fired at you. That's a lot of Dakka, as the Greenskins would say. Now I'm going to have Luther Harkin in the sky with his own pistol that's going to disrupt the magic of the Lizardman. This is like a classic, actually, matchup. Luther Harkin versus Mazda Monday. Got to make sure he gets his relics back so he can become sane. And of course, you can't go any vampirate army comp without polearms. Polearms are just the staple of killing anything large. Very, very efficient. Just 120 zombies with polearms. They just take so long to kill. And on each flank, I'm just going to have my little guns. This is the zombie tide. It's really just the zombie tide. My only big gunpowder is going to be 1 unit of carronade. So to force him to come in, just in case he brought like a bunch of solar engines on Bastillodons, which is not very likely, but just to make sure, keep my opponent in check. And the most expensive unit I have is the Night Terrors. Morgul's that cause terror. They're stock. They're just red. They look cool. And anti-infantry power that I need, since I have plenty of anti-large power with all these bazillions of guns. But the anti-infantry will have to fall upon the Night Terrors. And when I play a faction that has their own unique lore, I like to bring it, even though it's not the most efficient. Same with like the Tomb Kings. I bring the lore of Nekahara a lot with the Tomb Kings because it's a unique lore, and I think I could play like Empire or something if I wanted to use the lore of Light or something like that. So I'm going to bring the lore of Deep with my Vampire Fleet Captain with a plethora of deep spells that I enjoy using. Now my opponent, on the other hand, is going to have a front line of Skinks and Saurus warriors with spears. Nothing too special. I like the choice of Skinks because zombies lose to pretty much everything, so you might as well. The decision in killing zombie gunnery mobs is that you either go all in and get units that kill zombies extremely quickly, like Forsaken, Berserkers, Depth Guard, or you just get a bunch of cheap units because the cheap units will beat them eventually, and they'll win the frontline battle via time. It's just the only problem is, will they wither the gunfire? He's going to bring a unit of Feral Carnosaur and 2 units of Croxigors on each flank, with Lord Mazdamundi himself leading this lizard party. Some Feral Cold Ones on the flank and Cold One Riders on each flank as well. So a very balanced army. Just in case I want the crab build, with some skink skirmishers on the far left flank in Vanguard deployment. Now, they're not chameleon skinks. Remember that. Chameleon skinks are just better in pretty much every single way. And they just... I find that skink skirmishers don't do that much damage. But with that, in tow, let's get into the battle. Obviously, since I have the carronade, I'm going to be firing. Now, the first thing I'm going to focus here is the feral carnosaur, as even though he's an anti-large specialist kind of monster, the fact that his mass allows him to just charge through my front line and disrupt it, which could be very, very menacing to me. He's never going to make it to Luther. Luther's going to be the air. I'm actually going to be firing his little pistol at him alongside my carronade, and he's going to rampage relatively soon. Now, I'm going to use my ability called Slangold, which is going to reduce the power recharge rate that Luther Harkin for his Winds of Magic. Luther Harkin is a potent anti-mage in this game. I really like how he has the ability to just stop magic bamboozling any sort of use. No more banishments. Well, obviously banishments are going to happen, but no more, like, whenever I face the Lizardman, Luther Harkin's the way to go because they bring Lord Croak, Deliverance of Itza, reduce their power recharge rate. No more Deliverance of Itza for you. Opponent's a little slow in the engagement. He's trying to do some skirmishing. Now, I'm going to have my pistols versus the skinks. He's going to be in some woodland cover, but look, 120 models versus 290, so 180 versus 120, and the gunnery mobs are going to just slay with their little shooting. It looks like they're shooting pebbles, if anything. But they will hold out fairly well. And it's a pretty good trade because a lot of people don't understand, but zombie pirate gunnery mobs only cost 300, and that's like a goblin archer unit. The front line is going to start, but he's going to try to get a charge with the Cold One Spear Riders, and of course the Feral Carnosaur is going to get taken out by the cannon, but he's going to run straight into the crossfire between two handgunners, which are potent against Cold One Spear Riders, and they're going to get knocked out really quickly. And only getting one charge into the Tide of Skilled, not very efficient himself. Now I'm going to make a small mistake here. Handgunners are going to try to fire, make sure get those handgunners firing into Croxagores, because Croxagores are a high value target to take out, but because of this hill right here, they can't get shots in, and because of the AI and how it works like that, they're going to walk into this banishment, which is going to be a nightmare. And watch this. Oh no. In the distance you can see my screech from my Terrorgeist, but I'm going to move my units out of this fire, and the Terrorgeist will be dealing the damage to the Croxagores. My front line doing relatively well. They are holding the line, and I'm going to get some more side fire into these Croxagores. Make sure he gets the least amount of value possible, because that is the hard-hitting force that I need to take out. Now remember, if I've said it time and time again, always remember... Oh, here's going to become like the stepping ability. Not a very efficient spell in this case. But always remember to spread out your gun line so that if someone gets into your gun line, you have different units that can support and defend them from different angles. So there's one unit in my handguns. This handgun will be able to defend, and these handguns, along with the cannon, will be able to defend. That's what I really like about Vampire Coast. Just a plethora of guns. Now my opponent is going to bring back his two skink skirmishers, and he's going to attempt to fire down at my Luther Harkin, but they're not armor-piercing projectiles, and Luther Harkin does have 80 armor, which is going to take bile. And he's going to charge his... For some reason, he's going to charge Cold One Knights, Cold One Riders, not Knights, into Halberds, which is definitely not the way to go for Lizardmen. Balance of power firmly in my grasp, and I'm going to use the... What's it, the Mist of the Damned was the spell, I believe. It's so fantastic. Fog of the Damned, sorry. Reducing melee attack and leadership. And I'm going to summon some Crabos. Not very used often. Ever since they nerfed the summons, summons are just not used nearly as much. But the Crabs are a good summon, especially because they hold the line and they don't die. Zombie summons will die relatively quickly, even though they will disappear. They just get mullered. They especially against any like berserker unit. So these crab units will hold the line, deal a lot of damage, and allow more time for my cannons to fire into Croxagores. Now my opponent is going to respond in tow with a shield of the old ones, which is very good, especially with how grouped he is. I really like what he's doing here. It'll reduce a not a large, but a humongous amount of damage that's into that I will be dealing into them. But my guns are finally getting over the hill, and they're going to be firing their pistols into these Lizardmen force. Handguns doing their job, getting their shots in, and of course my Night Terrors are going to make it into the fray, dealing with the Skinks and Saurus warriors, and terrifying the Kroxigors into leaving this battlefield. My halberds did their job with the handguns firing into the Kroxigors. Now, a little misplay by my part. I do use my... What's the spell called again? I completely forgot. It's Vanguy's Revenge. I remember now. But into the skirmishers, but I missed most of my shots because my opponent... It's very easily avoided spell, but my opponent does well and avoids it. And I'm going to see, like... Every time I fire at Lord Mazda, if you guys don't know, Luther Harkin has an ability. Come on, Luther. With his projectiles, and specifically his projectiles. Come on, Luther, come here. In that, he disrupts them, and he increases miscast chance by 50%. And that's just amazing for taking out any sort of lore. I'm going to use the taunt ability to reduce armor, melee defense, and speed, and Luther Harkin himself will join the fray of battle in just a second once the lizards spread out. Now look at this gun line of just... Yes, you may approach, but look how much Dakka is going to hit you in the process. Your shields can only protect you from one angle, and that is not enough to protect against the withering gunfire of the zombie pirates. Now Luther Harkin going to try to snipe out Lord Mazdamundi, and he will do so efficiently as Lord Mazdamundi is not very good in one-on-one combat, and that will cause a mass rout with my opponent. And let's see the end result. Now I've deployed 19,000. That's a lot of units, especially like look at all these zombies, and I lost 800 of them, but like so much Dakka. Two units of handgunners, 4 units of just pistols, a carronade. That's a lot of guns to deal with, and I have so much chaff, so many units to get past that to get to them, it just by the time you do, it's too late. Now Lord Mazdamundi did well, 137 kills, with mainly all of it from his banishment, but 137 when I have 19,000 is just not going to cut it. Luther Harkin himself did very well, taking out the Feral Carnosaur, assisted with the carronade, and he's very good at just taking down, making sure no magic for you, Lord Mazdamundi, and that's what I really like about Luther Harkin as a matchup. And of course, Vampire Fleet Captain, summoning some Crabos, using the Mist of the Dam, and using Vanguy's Revenge, even though I missed with that spell. Well, let's see how, if I was the Lizardman, I would deal with a build of just loads and loads of Dakka. Dakka out the wazoo. So if you're a Lizardman, let's go here, and it's already... I do like Lord Mazdamundi. I believe he does have missile resistance of 40, which will do well against the onslaught. So I can definitely see choosing him. Lord Mazdamundi. Let's see. Go. Make sure he has his banishment. I would definitely go for a Net of Ammontok. Curse of the Midnight Wind. You need harmonic convergence. Very important here. Common to Cassandor, a little too overpriced, doesn't do enough. And Apotheosis would be very, very nice. So these spells would be very good in the matchup. Does he need the missile resistance? Oh, against... Yeah, I would definitely get it for this matchup, especially against the what do they call him? The Vampirates himself. And that'll be nice. Banishment, Ruin of Cities, Shield all ones. Yes, I'll keep everything here. Actually, I don't think you'll need Roiling Skies. Melee defense, that won't be too useful. Alright, so how do we deal with the plethora of chaff on the opponent's army and trying to get into the Dakka backline? Now while the challenge here is still making a build that would still be effective against crabs and possible like Necrofix Colossus spam, right? So first of all, let's get a Skink Chief on a Pterodon Rider. Very good at sniping at units. If they bring Luther Harkin, this is a unit that could be firing at him and the entirety of the game and dealing a decent amount of damage and applying some pressure. I really like the Skink Chief, and if there's any sort of Necrofix Colossus, this thing will dodge most cannon shots. Like, it's very hard to hit how small this unit Skink Chief is and just get a lot of fire, deal a good amount of damage. I really like it, especially in this matchup. So here's the decision making. Do we go for a Skink Army because Skinks will win against zombies eventually? Or do we go for a Saurus Army because the Saurus will not only will they win, but they'll lose very little in the engagement. And I think we should say yes to that question. We're going to go with both. We're going to go for we're going to go with a front line of Saurus warriors with shields, of course, because shields are necessary. I think 4 units should be enough with skink cohorts on the flank. So we got 4 in the front, 2 on each side of skinks. And just in case, well, this is a pretty good matchup. So shields on everything. Make sure their Dakka is less effective as they need to be. And we're going to need a lot of backline pressure. Now, they're going to have halberds, and we know they're going to have halberds. So how are we going to deal with this halberd sort of like screen of units that will be very, very effective? That's a pretty tough question for the Lizardman matchup. You guys, let's see here. I think the way to go is actually a very large screen of infantry. So just 1 more unit of warriors. So 4 units of skinks. We have 4,000 money left. If they bring crabs may be the issue in this matchup. So I'm going to get 2 units of the chameleon skinks. Now these units have pretty high missile damage. Now not a lot of armor piercing, but even my experience with them is that they deal a lot of damage, even though they don't have that much armor piercing, like 3 armor piercing damage. It's not that much, but it doesn't seem like much, but they deal a pretty decent chunk when dealing with sort of necrophages, any sort of like terror guys. They do more than what a lot of people would expect, and their opponent is most likely going to bring some form of... Definitely they're going to bring a form of like crab or something, or any large unit, like especially if they bring the Night Terrors or Mourngulls. I'm going to bring 2 units of Cold Wind Spear Riders, but I'm going to be very careful in that engagement. You have to make sure the Cold Wind Spear Riders are hidden or in the back. They only come in when absolutely needed, because the carronades, the gunpowder are going to absolutely destroy Cold Wind Spear Riders. You do not want them to get engaged in a bad matchup against this. And we have a pretty nice, decent spread of units. How could we supplement this? Now, we should probably add maybe 2 units of spears. Where is the spear? 800 here. We only have enough for 1 unit of spears. With only 1 unit of spears, it's quite not enough. So let's get the lead regiment of renown. Now, if you notice, I'm not using the cohort of Sotek or the Star Chamber Guardians here, because I find Depth Guard are a little too efficient at killing the cohort of Sotek, and Temple Guard are just a tad bit overkill. They're a little too slow in this matchup. Like, yes, they have Guardian. They would be pretty nice at defending Lord Mazda Mundi. They're just too slow. Their crabs are probably not going to get in there. I'm going to get the Legion of Chakwa, because they have this ability called the Shield of Chakwa, increase missile resistance by 44%. That is a huge bonus for your army. And with the 150 left, I think we can get another spell, or let's see if we can get an item for our Skink Chief. Warhammer effects are engaged and only disabled. +4 leadership, charge bonus, speed. That's pretty nice, actually. What's the other? It's the Potion of Foolhardiness, Unbreakable. That's actually nothing too special. Instead, I would probably just give chevrons to my skinks. And that's 2 chevrons each. Make sure the skinks are much more effective and faster at killing. And I think that's a pretty decent build. It's a very simple build, low micro. Use the chameleon skinks along with the Cold Wind Spear Riders to shoot down and charge into the large units, because you don't need that much. Legion of Chakwa is probably going to be in the center line. In fact, probably mixed in with Lord Mazda Mundi himself, increasing the missile resistance massively for all the units. And you're just going to kind of rush them. Try to make it into their backline as fast as possible so that the Cold Wind Spear Riders won't get shot down, and get a pretty good value train going with the infantry surge that you have. And if you notice here, the biggest threat to this army composition, in my opinion, would probably be Depth Guard, because Depth Guard chew through Skink. They're not very effective against Saurus warriors, but they will chew through Skink cohort like no other. So I'm going to probably try to get the good matchups here. Try to get charges with Cold Wind Spear Riders into the back of Depth Guard, but usually most vampirates army compositions only bring 2 depth guard at most. Like, if you bring any more than that, that's a little bit absurd. And that's when you use the abilities such as Net of Ammontok, so that they never join the battle. Make sure you use Banishment. Focus the low model count of the depth guard will make sure that the banishment gets a lot of damage, because you just only have to take a few models out and the damage per second of the depth guard is reduced very significantly. But overall, I like this army comp, and I think I'll be using it if I ever go against the vampirates myself. Well guys, if you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe if you want more. I'll catch you guys later.